Greetings everybody, 'tis I, 480 Volts, and today we are going to be talking about Super Mario Bros. 3.
Development for Super Mario Bros. 3 began in 1986, shortly after the Famicom release of Super Mario Bros. 2, aka The Lost Levels. The game was in development for 2 years before finally being released for the Nintendo Entertainment System in 1988 in Japan, 1990 in North America, and 1991 in Europe. For this release, Nintendo, with Shigeru Miyamoto serving as the project director, used the gameplay of the original Super Mario Bros. As the template, taking time to iron out the kinks and properly refine the game. The story is that the Mushroom Kingdom is invaded by 7 Koopalings, the children of our old pal, Bowser. The Mushroom Kingdom is divided into 7 worlds, each of which is ruled by a king, and each Koopaling goes to each world and uses a magic wand to transform the kings into animals. Princess Toadstool sends Mario and Luigi to save the day. I guess being a playable character in Mario's Dream in the previous game was too much work for her pretty little self, and it's just easier to let the Italian plumbers do your dirty work. Anyway, Mario and Lou travel through each world, defeat the Koopalings, retrieve the magic wands, and restore the kings one by one to their original self. For the first 6 worlds, each time a king is restored, Mario receives a letter from the princess giving him some gameplay advice and one of the game's many collectible items to aid him in his journey. After restoring the 7th king, however, Mario receives a letter from the big bad Koopa King Bowser that he has kidnapped the princess while Mario was busy running around and dares him to come to his lair and retrieve her. Mario accepts, makes his way through Bowser's lair, trashes the big jerk, rushes to the princess, and... wait, what?
Not funny. Not funny. Not funny. Not.
And the game ends. Now for the gameplay. The best way to describe this game is a more polished and refined version of the first Super Mario Bros. The basic skeleton of the game's mechanics are used here, but so many things have been tweaked and brought to new levels. The stages are basic side-scrollers filled with lots of platforming goodness. All of the enemies from the first game return, as well as the Bob-ombs from Mario 2. Some enemies have upgraded versions such as the winged Goombas and the fire-shooting Piranha Plants. There are also a fair number of completely new enemies, like Chain Chomps, Boos, Thwomps, and Dry Bones. Like the first game, many of the enemies are allergic to the underside of Mario's boots, so you can kill most enemies by jumping on them, with various exceptions of course. World progression isn't quite as straightforward as it was before. This game uses an overworld map system in which you can choose which stages to play next. The map is somewhat linear, so you do have to follow a certain order. However, there are points on the map which the path splits into 2 different directions, allowing you to skip some stages if you so desire. You can also find a few shortcuts cleverly tucked away. In short, you are not required to play through every single stage in the game, and as far as I am aware, you get no extra reward for doing so. The average world has around 8 to 10 main stages, however there are some extra areas in addition to this. For instance, every world has at least one fortress, the end of which is a mini boss fight against this guy, who upon being defeated drops a key which unlocks a gate that was blocking you somewhere on the map, thus allowing you to progress further. You may also find Hammer Bros moving around on certain points of the map. Coming into contact with one of these throws you into a battle with 1 or 2 of these guys, after winning which you are awarded with an item. There are also mushroom houses where a toad presents you with 3 chests telling you to take the item out of just 1. Seriously, dude, are you gonna be that stingy? Just let me have all 3. The items in the chest are completely randomized, and from playing this game on an emulator with the super godlike power of save stating, I have confirmed that the items are in a state of random flux right up until the moment you touch the chest. There's also the card, which presents you with 3 side-scrolling cards, each one containing 1/3 of 3 different images: the mushroom, the star, and the fire flower. Stopping these scrollers at just the right moment, lining them perfectly up, rewards you with some extra lives. Also, the moving card appears on the map from time to time. Touching this starts a mini-game where you are presented with a wall of cards, each with an image of an item and turned away from you. Your goal is to find a match for every item you flip over. The game ends if you flip the wrong cards over twice, but the board saves your progress until the next time you encounter it. And finally, the end of every world is marked with a castle where someone is apparently calling out for help. It is here where Mario's assistance is required in transforming the king back to his original form. Mario then boards an airship, which ends with a boss fight against one of the Koopalings, and then retrieves the magic wand, restores the king, and moves on to the next world. The worlds themselves have a fair amount of variety in their themes, such as the desert world, the ice world, the water world, and the giant world, where all the plants and enemies are really big. As for stage variety, some of the stages are just standard, run right and avoid or kill enemies, while others are platforming galore. Remember how I said that the first game had it all? Well, that's not entirely true. It was lacking one thing: automatic scrolling. If you think Mario platforming demands a lot from the player, wait until you try it when the screen is constantly moving and you have to keep up. There's also a fair amount of puzzle solving in some of the stages, particularly in the fortress stages of the last two worlds. Now let's talk about the controls. Mario runs and jumps just like he did before, and just like his previous titles, holding the B button lets him run faster. Something new is the meter at the bottom marked with the letter P. While holding the B button and running, this meter begins to fill up. Once it is full, Mario runs even faster and jumps higher. Returning from Mario 2 is Mario's ability to pick up certain items, in this game's case fallen Koopas, blue blocks, and bob-ombs. Mario's controls are fairly decent this time around. The developers seem to have found an okay middle ground between his controls in the first and second games. He's still a little heavy, but not quite so much as Mario 1, and he's nowhere near as slippery as Mario 2. Now let's talk about my favorite addition to Mario 3. The items. So like Mario 1, you begin this game in miniature size, and any enemy you touch anywhere, aside from jumping on it, kills you instantly. The Super Mushrooms return, turning Mario into Super Mario, giving him an extra hit point. From here, there are a variety of collectible power-ups, such as the return of the Fire Flower, which works just like it did in Mario 1, and the Raccoon Tail, which allows Mario to glide, and if the P meter is filled, fly for a limited time. The tail also gives you a melee attack, a tail spin, which can take out enemies at close range. Don't bet your life on this move though. The tail itself has to touch the enemy while Mario is spinning, or else Mario will take damage, making the move kind of unreliable. Most of what you find in the main stages will consist of these two items, though the previously mentioned minigames and mushroom houses can provide other items. Mario now has an inventory, allowing him to store extra items to be used at a later time. You can only access the inventory on the world map. As for the rest of the items, you have the Tanuki suit, which works just like the raccoon tail, but additionally allows Mario to temporarily turn into stone, protecting him from enemies. The frog suit, which severely limits Mario's mobility on dry ground, but gives him so much control underwater. The sock, which allows you to jump on enemies that you wouldn't normally be able to jump on, like spiny tops. It should be noted that the sock is only available in World 5 Stage 3 and will not carry over into other stages. And the almighty hammer suit. This thing is freaking awesome. It allows Mario to throw hammers just like the Hammer Bros. It is rather challenging to hit enemies as you have to lob hammers up in the air, but boy is it overpowered. You can kill so many enemies that are otherwise unkillable, like Boos, Thwomps, and Dry Bones. You can also totally cheese the final boss with this thing. You only get 2 in the whole game if I'm not mistaken, so use them wisely. Also, when you restore a king while wearing the suit, you get this little Easter egg where he asks if he can borrow it. Something nice about the power-ups, they now serve as an extra hit point. Continuing on with items, you have coin stars and 1-up mushrooms, which all work like they did in Mario 1, the cloud, which allows you to skip an entire stage, the music box, which puts any Hammer Bros on the map asleep so you can avoid the encounters if you choose, the P glove, which lets you start a stage with your P meter completely full for a limited time, and the warp whistle, which allows the player to skip several worlds of the game. As was the case in Mario 1, this game has 2-player mode, in which player 2 takes control of Luigi after player 1 has lost a life. This mode also features a remake of the original Mario Bros. Graphically, this game looks great. The backgrounds are bright and colorful, and the sprites of Mario and the enemies are smooth and easy on the eyes. For some reason, Mario is now wearing black overalls as opposed to blue, but whatever. The music was once again composed by Koji Kondo. The stage music varies between 6 different tunes depending on the stage type, while each world map has its own distinct theme. As for the music itself, it's okay. It's the same type of catchy Mario music you'd expect to hear. It is kinda cool to hear the underground theme from the first game return with the drum beat. Production-wise, it sounds pretty good, with recognizable sounds for a kick and snare drum. This game is looked on quite fondly in the Mario franchise, rivaling Super Mario World as most people's favorite 2D Mario game. Personally, it's only okay for me, but you have to keep in mind that I'm not really a Mario fan. I mean, I'm grateful for his contributions in the video game world, but I don't ever find myself longing to play his games. That being said, if you are a Mario fan, this is definitely one you need to check out if you haven't already. Super Mario Bros. 1 laid the foundations for what was to be expected of Nintendo's mascot, and this game took what was there and built upon that foundation quite well. I mentioned that Nintendo spent 2 years working on this game. That alone should be a testament to its overall quality as compared to the previous titles. See, when you spend time working meticulously and diligently on a project, the final product should be quite polished, and I think that this game, for the most part, is. And this method of taking time and carefully working through a game has become a habit of Nintendo, thus making most of their games shine in quality as this one does.
Well, there you go, Super Mario Bros. 3. And that, my friends, is the last game that I plan to review on the original NES. I have another game that we're going to talk about on the Game Boy, and then we're going to move on to the almighty Super Nintendo, which is where I think the fun will really start. So thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, do all the usual standard stuff, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.